Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today is the very last video in the 2023-2024 Homeschool Show and Tell series hosted by Jessica Waldock and I. If you are interested in participating, you have until the end of this month to add your video to the playlist. I will put all the information in the description box down below. This month, our topic is end of the year review, wins and losses or challenges in your homeschool. And so I thought that this would be the perfect day to share what I share every year and I call hits and misses. So just the things that we loved this year and the things that we struggled with this year, kind of like a curriculum review, but personalized to our family, because as you know from other videos or the other times that I've done this topic, it takes a lot for me to give up on a curriculum. I know that some curriculum doesn't fit our own family, but it's gonna take a lot for me to actually knock a curriculum company itself, and I'm not sure if I've ever done that. So for some reason, you know, various reasons, some years one curriculum fits our schedule and one doesn't, and things stand out to me that I wasn't expecting and I call it a hit, or you know, we just didn't make time for something and I call it a miss, but that doesn't mean that the next year we won't try again. Usually it has to do with our own schedule or our family's interests that year. So this year my misses are almost all going to come back. So it's not too juicy. Just, you know, we missed some things and we're gonna try again next year. So if you wanna hear my own end of the year review, then give this video a thumbs up and stay tuned. And if you wanna hear how everyone else did in their own school years, then make sure that you check out the playlist in the description box down below. So let's get started. Before I share our hits and misses, I wanted to thank today's video sponsor, Redefining School. Redefining School is an online literature curriculum for middle schoolers and now high schoolers that my kids have participated in for the last 2.5 years, and we have loved it so much in our homeschool. Next year I will have 3 students participating. Mindy from Redefining School offers a lot of different courses depending on your family's needs. She has standalone writing courses as well as literature circles that your kids can participate in year-round, really at any time at your leisure. She opens the literature circles, which are like book discussion clubs at different points throughout the year, and the writing courses you can purchase at any time, and they take about 8 weeks to work through, although you can stretch that to fit your family's needs. She also has online office hours where you can meet up with her and go over your writing. She reviews it. It's amazing. But she also offers a middle school literature survey. So she has 2 different courses for that middle school survey. The one is American literature, and then the second one is world literature, which is what my older 2 kids did this year. Last year they did American Lit together. And for both of these, every single month you're studying a different author, a different piece by that author. A lot of times it's short stories. And then she's using that to bring in other parts of writing and grammar and just different things to consider from that text. They also get to meet twice a month in a live Zoom class with their peers for discussions and author's chairs where they get to share their own work based on that author's writing and style that they were studying that month. So the American literature course, like I said, my middle schoolers did last year. This year, Bella was in 9th grade, but she still did a good job. Like, it was still a good fit for her to be in the world literature course. And Jessie, who was in 7th grade this year, participated as well. Next year, they're splitting off. Jessie's gonna go back and do the American literature course again because I thought it would be really neat for him to go back and revisit some of those topics that he learned for the first time 2 years ago and do it from a new perspective. He's gonna be doing that with Eli, who's in 5th grade. So it really is for like 5th through 9th graders. And then Bella next year is going to be doing Mindy's newest course, which by popular demand is coming next year, which is a high school course. The high school course is gonna look a little different from the middle school course. They'll be studying works by C.S. Lewis, and they're gonna be studying Screwtape Letters, The Great Divorce, Mere Christianity, and then a book of choice. And then they're also gonna be, as they study those different texts, they're also going to be working on their writing. So it's going to be a literature and writing combination course. And they're going to be working on literary analysis writing, I believe it's persuasive writing and research writing, and then a fourth term on poetry. I'm very excited for her to participate in this. I know Jesse really, really wants to do it, but I do want to wait until he's actually in high school to do it. I'm so excited. She opened it up and it filled up immediately. So she opened a second course on a different day, but I know that's probably almost full as well. So if you are interested in signing up for that, make sure you check out the information in my description box down below. I also have a coupon code for $5 off in the description box as well. And while the literature circles open up at various times throughout the year and the writing courses are always available, the middle school literature survey as well as the new high school course offering are only available until June 15th. So if you're interested, make sure that you check out that link down below ASAP. So moving on to our hits and misses for this school year. As I mentioned earlier, these are all just, you know, because of our own family. Things are hits one year and misses the next. Things are misses one year, and then the very next year, they're like a knock it out of the park hit. Really, it has more to do with our schedule, how we're able, like how much time we're able to sit down and dive into these things, or how interested my kids are once we get started. Sometimes they just want to consume more information. Sometimes it's a labor of love. We've had years where Shakespeare is like the best thing we did all year, and years where Shakespeare was like the last thing we were able to fit in our schedule in the spring, and we barely got through it, and the kids were like, why are we doing this play? So it changes year to year. So none of this is related to a particular company. As you'll see, 2 of our misses are from a company that is my favorite company ever. So our hits, we'll start with that. The first thing that I thought of when I considered this school year, there's always something that I kind of like define our school year by, because it was something that we just did so well and enjoyed so much as a family. So the first thing that came to mind was the Burgess Bird Book and the corresponding bird study that we did from Simply Charlotte Mason. It was just like the learning about birds. I actually got it for my younger kids to do as their science, like a living science, but I incorporated it into our morning basket time so that my older kids got to hear the story, because I love a Thornton Burgess book, and so I just thought that my older kids would enjoy it. It became the thing that we loved the most as a family this year. They would cheer, even my older ones. It was really fun. I'd be like, all right guys, grab your bird books. And they'd be like, yay! And they'd all run to the table, and it was really cute. And I just enjoyed it so much. And living in Florida, we have a lot of the birds that like other areas would have in the spring and summer, we have in the fall and winter. And so we really got off to a really great start doing that study this year, and we love it so much. That is my first hit. My next hit was our Bible study. And the reason that I'm even incorporating that in school is because the Bible study that we go to, it's called CBS, Community Bible Study. If you don't have one of those in your area, you may have BSF, Bible Study Fellowship, and the format is pretty similar from what I've heard. And what it is a Bible study where you go to your own small group for an hour and talk with your group, and then you go into a lecture for an hour and you hear more like historical information about what you studied. A lot of times our director will bring up like archaeology findings and things like that. So it's like a little apologetics and a little Bible study mixed together. And one of the reasons that we really, really like it is because there are pretty strict rules on not saying authors or pastors' names. It's a very strictly non-denominational study, and so we're only studying the text, and the only other references that we're allowed to use in our Bible study is other text from the Bible. So we can't pull in commentaries or, you know, different books that we've read or different sermons that we've heard, and so it keeps it very historical, which you guys know is like my love language, is like history, Bible history. I love all of that. It's so interesting. We took a break after 2020 and we didn't go back, although we started in this Bible study when my kids were really little. And so coming back after 2020 this year, because this was something that John really wanted to make sure our oldest had for all 4 years of her high school career, I wasn't sure how we're gonna fit it into our schedule because it takes a chunk of time. Like, we're out of the house until after lunchtime 1 day a week. And then you guys know, it's hard to kind of like recover being out of the house in the afternoon. And so we would try to just do our handcraft at that time when we'd come home, but I wasn't quite sure how it was gonna fit our schedule. Because we took a break, when we came back, I didn't realize that it meant my older 2 kids were a part essentially of the adult program. So they had the same book as me, the same adult book. So all of our homework was identical throughout the week, but then they would go to their own teenager discussion group for the first hour and then meet me in the lecture hall, and we would sit in the same lecture. That was really a special treat, and it was very emotional because I remember them being little and going to pick them up in the same building when they were really little after the lecture. And so it was kind of nostalgic for me to kind of come back to it, but so neat to be studying the exact same thing as my older kids. Then Eli, my middle kid, he was also in the same book of the Bible, the same study, the same exact chapters and verses in the study, but he had his own primary book, like a children's book. So his questions were a little different, but we had the same discussions as a family, which was really neat. And then Annie's in like the early readers class, so hers is more of just an overview of the Bible and different Bible stories. And Josephine, of course, was just eating goldfish and hanging out with her little baby friends. But because we were in ancient times recently and into medieval times now in our history, all of this kind of information was still very fresh. And so what we studied the first term was Ephesians, which was really great. And we had just, finished studying the time of Paul and that kind of general timeline in history. And then second term, we studied the life of David all the way from the book of Ruth for a couple weeks through all of 1st and 2nd Samuel. We took it really slow, and it took us like 15 weeks to go through those books of the Bible. And it was so incredibly interesting for my kids and I that it became a lot of what we talked about, read about, and did during school. So that is my second hit. I will remember this year because of our discussions on the life of David and just that general timeline and just how interesting that was. Moving on, another hit was our Christmas school. Like, it was so great. There's a lot of years where I get ahead of myself with our plans and we can't execute them well. This year, it was just so perfect. The kids have already asked me to just emulate that exact same thing for this coming December. We'll probably start it even a little sooner. It was a beautiful time together as a family. We loved Delightfully Feasting's Nutcracker study. Everyone in my house wants to do more of her ballet study now. Even my boys, like I promise you, it was really interesting. We got to go see the Nutcracker as a family. I loved that study. That kind of was like the core of our Christmas school this year, as well as a handcraft, which was sewing. So the kids would sew while I read aloud and while we listened to things. And we loved our Christmas school this year. I'll try to remember to link our video on our holiday homeschooling plans. I'll link it up here and in the description box down below if you guys are making plans for next school year and are trying to figure out what to do around the holidays. Our next hit was our assigned reading, which kind of plays into our history. So as I mentioned, we're doing the medieval story of the world right now, and with story of the world, we use that as like our spine, but I supplement a ton of reading and additional resources because we've been using story of the world forever, like 10 years now, and we meet with friends, and so we really bulk it up. But we found a lot of really great medieval assigned reading books this year through Simply Charlotte Mason and Ambleside and other book lists, and so the kids have been reading a lot of those books. I also did a video on that if you want to know like about our medieval books. I'll link that up there as well. And then that plays into history because the kids right now are working on their end of the year history projects, which they do every year. They pick a character that we studied in our book that year or somebody from the same time frame, and they do a full presentation for grandparents and friends who are able to come over. And so they're really knee deep in that right now. We're in our official last couple weeks of school here, and so the last couple weeks are typically just them working on that. And so between what they've read and just seeing their interests kind of split in different directions based on how they're doing their projects and the information that they know just from what they've read, they have barely had to do any research on like internet research because they've read so well this year. Their projects are really interesting and I love it. And so history and the assigned reading were a great hit in our homeschool this year, which was great because having a toddler who was quite demanding this semester, it was really nice to have something for them to do that I knew was making progress in our school day and not just busy work. So that book list that I created for each of them was really helpful. Picture study was especially fun this year for us because we started the beginning of our year studying Mary Cassatt, and then we got to take, just Bella, but we got to take her to the Art Institute in Chicago when we visited for a quick weekend, and she got to see an original piece, which was really special. So that was like a full circle kind of a study. The kids also had fun with that study. I don't know why in particular that was just so different and nice for them. They liked the way that she chose to name her artwork, and so they would always try to guess, like, I bet this one is called Baby in a Bath. You know, it was just, they really picked up on they kind of read between the lines with her life and her style, and so it was neat to see them putting a little more effort in that direction, just with like using what they know about her life and then looking at the picture and trying to connect the dots, versus other picture study years, and it might have just been their ages, where they were just, you know, the artist and the art were two separate ideas to them. This year it really connected. And then their independent work, because I brought in that checklist system, became really strong this year. Again, I hate to keep like self-promoting, but I know I'll get questions about it. So I will link our checklist system up here if you guys would like to see that. That was key in having a strong independent work year, with all that we have going on with extracurriculars. My kids are very involved with a few things. It's just a few things that they're doing, but they're very, very involved within those few things. And with having a toddler. So we just, you know, life was very busy this year, but having a good system kept us going with that independent work. Moving on to the misses. Our misses this year, the first miss just, I mean, it was totally off my radar, and that was poetry tea time. And the reason that I knew that this was a miss was because when I was watching back my video from the beginning of the year where I was talking about our family subjects, I was like, wow, I didn't even remember that I wanted to do that. I didn't make a good plan, I never wrote it anywhere, and it just never happened. I'm actually disappointed because my plan was to do it once a month and to have the kids come up with a different recipe each month that they wanted to do. And so that was almost gonna be like a handcraft to incorporate the cooking for my one child, especially, who just really wants me to help him learn how to cook these kind of higher end dishes than what, you know, than scrambling eggs and making mac and cheese. And so I was disappointed that I didn't really get that done, but I'm also not hard on myself because we got a lot of other things done. So we'll try again next year. So teaser, that's probably gonna be on our list for next year. I also think poetry tea time is just an enjoyable time together. We laugh a lot, we have a good time, and I wish that we had done that. I don't know how it just fell off my radar this year. Then Life in the Word, which is the Simply Charlotte Mason Bible study for older kids that we were doing this year. It's not like a total flop because we actually, what we were able to get done was really interesting and the kids did a great job with it. It's just that we didn't get as far as I wanted to, so I need to reconsider how often to incorporate it into our school year next year, because the way that I had it for this year was just on the days that I took my older kids to the coffee shops, which we would only go to the coffee shop twice a month, and so they couldn't do like a week's worth of that study at the coffee shop, so we would only get like a couple days worth done every time we met, so we only got through a handful of the actual lessons. I think we're gonna try to incorporate it into our summer just a bit, but we'll be moving through it, continuing with the same book in the fall and before we move on to the next one. So that was a miss just because I didn't have it scheduled well into our schedule for how much effort it really does take. It seems when you just look at it like it only takes like a minute to write a certain thing down, so I thought we could kind of fly through it, but once we really got into it, it takes a lot more effort than I was originally planning, but I think it's worth it. The other miss was the bookstore math. We did pet store math last term, and the reason that I just kind of paused on it was because I wanted to wait just one more year until Eli was in 5th grade. The pet store math was the one that I did with Bella and Jesse last year, and it just teaches them things like balancing a checkbook, taxes, writing checks, inventory. It's like you're running a shop, and Bella was a little old for it, but we had never done it before, and it was good for her to do because she'd never done any of those things before. So I graduated her from that course after she did the pet store one. Jesse, I think it'd be great for him to go through it once again. I believe it's recommended for like ages 8 through 12, where Eli is there in age, but I wanted to just wait one more year for the two of them to do it together because I think it'll probably be the last time Jesse does it. And so I wanted them to do it together. And so this coming year we'll incorporate that for the two of them as well. I kind of had Jesse in two different directions. Sometimes he's with Eli, sometimes he's with Bella. And so he was doing a lot with Bella this year and I didn't really have the time to like pull him back to do some things with Eli. So we're gonna do that next year. It's actually still in the plastic wrap. I believe we didn't touch it. Then we have a couple things, and I've never done this before, that they're kind of like a hit miss. It's a hit in my heart, it's a miss on paper, and I just feel like it's important to like recognize what that looks like because a lot of us kind of straddle 2 years at the same time. We don't finish things by the end of the school year. We start things at awkward times and that can make us feel like we're failing in an area. But homeschooling, as I mentioned regularly, it goes across a period of time. It's not just from August through May. And so anytime I start to feel defeated, like, oh, we didn't get through that, we didn't finish it. It's like, yeah, but we're loving it and we can keep doing it. We don't have to be done. We don't have to throw it away because we only got a third of the way through. So I'm gonna recognize a few of those things that are like a hit miss. Okay, so the first thing was geography. And the reason that I'm like calling it a miss is because we got very delayed because I actually incorporated all of the extra reading that's suggested, and so it slowed us down a bit. So I'll call it a miss in that sense because we only got through Australia instead of Australia and South America. However, so like, you know, like I said, like a third of the way through the book. However, I call it a hit because the kids were more invested and we did more with it than we've ever done before with our geography study. So I'm considering it a win, and just the fact is that we're going to continue in the same curriculum next year, and because of that we may finish earlier in the year than if we had started a new curriculum in the fall. But it was really interesting to us. Australia was just something we were unfamiliar with, and so we took our time going through it. We read the additional reading books. One of them we ended up watching the movie because we were struggling with it. But we did the Material World and Hungry Planet. We looked through the recipes in there. Like, we were super invested and we took it slow. We didn't have as many days for family subjects as I wanted this year, but when we did, geography was always on our radar. And so we really enjoyed it. We enjoyed our study on Australia. Eli is just now really wanting to go there. It became alive to him. And so I'm calling it a hit, but on paper, we got a third of the way through the book. But, you know, I'm in charge, so it's a hit. Another miss would be, what is this? Oh, okay, so our folk song is another one where we incorporated it really well at certain parts throughout the year, and then other plans that I had made didn't really pan out. And so we did we did the Fox, and we did I'll Fly Away. Is there 2 folk songs? I don't even remember what our third one was supposed to be. Something with crawdads, I think. I don't remember, but it'll be something that we do in the next term. It just took us a little longer. We had other things on our plate. But again, it's like a hit miss because we had so much fun with the ones we were doing, and we've like, what's the word? We like messed with our kids, like pranked them by like singing the folk song to embarrass them in public. It's just, you know, not John and I, but the other kids and I, when we're like picking up another kid from an event, we'll just be singing the Fox and, you know, things like that. It's just funny what your own individual family culture will do with things once you have them kind of in your inner circle. So now that we know some of these folk songs, they come out at the most random times, but we had a great time with it. It was my vision when we brought them back into the fold for my kids' education, was to have a good time with it, for it to be funny and happy, and it was, but we definitely missed a whole entire third of my plan. And then the other thing that I'm gonna call like a hit miss was, once again, watercolor, which was our second year doing it. when we were able to do it, it was great. There were just various factors that are always going to go into our handcrafts, which were if the baby was okay for me to sit down and paint with the kids, if we had enough time by the time we actually got home from Bible study before somebody had to leave for cheer or something. There were a lot of times where we were able to start one project one week and then finish it the next week. So while we were consistent, there wasn't a month that went by that we didn't start a new project or finish a new project. It wasn't one per week like I had imagined, and a lot of that had to do with the cheer football schedule being so much earlier in the day than I had anticipated going into the fall. And I didn't know how that was gonna feel. I'm used to dance and things that are later at night, but you take after school sports because they play sports for a local school, and you plug that into our homeschool schedule, and suddenly our day is not as relaxed as I want it to be. So watercolor was the thing that kind of took the hit there when we had to finish up early. So say they start something at 3, that means we really need to be done with school by 2 so they can get ready and I can get them there. And I was thinking more 3 in my head. So, but it was our second year doing it. So over the course of 2 years, I was just going through their papers the other day. I was filing some things away and I'm like, we did a lot of the projects. We used Let's Make Art and we love it. And again, it's a hit because it's something that as a family now, when we go on vacation, we pack our watercolors. They love doing those tutorials and I love doing the tutorials. Sometimes I'll pull a kid aside and we'll do them in the evening, or if they're looking for something to do, I'll suggest it and they can just go do a project on their own. Let's Make Art is a wonderful company, and it was a great way for us to try an artistic handcraft instead of like, you know, gardening or sewing or things like that. So that would be my other kind of like miss for the school year. And then my last miss, I just said, was like consistency in general with our schedule. And that is something that's out of my control. But that's the first year, this is the first year that I felt a little off rhythm. And our daytime when we were home was pretty good. It was more the feeling of like having a high schooler and what that looks like, having 2 days out of the house a week for our Bible study and our co-op, which are in the morning. So, you know, it just, our consistency of whether we would come home after those things and have a good amount of work to get done or not, that was a little iffy. And then if anything else, really the big issue, because we would do some independent work and stuff like that when we'd come home, but family subjects weren't as consistent for that reason. But what would really throw me off is if there was one more thing during the week, an orthodontist appointment or, you know, just anything else on the schedule. That was difficult because that meant that like 3 days, 3 mornings in the week we were gone, and it was difficult to figure out on the 2 days that we were home whether we were going to just do like kind of make up for family subjects that we missed, or whether they needed to just like work on the lessons that I needed to actively teach. So like Annie's reading or math that are hands-on for me. So I felt like we did really well with our independent work. We got pretty far in our family subjects. We had a great time sitting around the table as a family when we were able to, but I wasn't like super happy with, and I was quite unsure of how often we'd be actually sitting down together. So I have a plan to remedy that next year. It was actually, John and I have a weekly date night, and it took a whole entire date night for him to just kind of reel me back in, because I was like, I'm not ready to lose Bella yet to all these college prep things, and I want her sitting at our table still, and these are the days we're at the house, and how can I do this? And he came up with a great plan to help me with that. So, you know. And it was also kind of a hit at the same time that it was a miss, because we were able to do what we could when we could, but also the things that they were involved in this year, the extracurriculars, were so good. They had such a successful year and such a fun year, a really good growth year in their extracurriculars. Every single one of my kids did. So it was really good. It just wasn't, you know, we weren't sitting down and singing a folk song at the same time. So that's my like hit miss there. So that's my end of the year recap, my homeschooling hits and misses for this school year. Let me know in the comments down below what you would consider to be your hits or misses. And if you're interested in what other families think on this topic, make sure you check out that playlist in the description box down below. Thanks guys. Don't forget to check out Redefining School. Thanks for sponsoring today's video. Bye.